Great Friday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock in time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. Browns with a day off before the final preseason game at home tomorrow, 1 o'clock kickoff against the LA Rams. Former NFL head coach Herm Edwards on why he feels Shadeur Sanders is behind Dillon Gabriel on the Browns' depth chart.
He has a lot of confidence, similar to what the confidence his father had. But I think he finds himself in a predicament right now that, look, I thought he played well in the preseason, but when I watched Gabriel play, oh boy, it was different. Dillon Gabriel was very good in the pocket. He ran the offense. I mean, he got the ball out of his hand. He was accurate, made some tough throws. This is why they drafted him. I can see why they drafted him. But I thought he really played well in the preseason game.
And again, Herm Edwards, former NFL head coach as well as college head coach, just what he has seen. NFL's, from ESPN, NFL insider Adam Schefter. Browns quarterback situation as they enter this final preseason game.
This is all what this last preseason game is about, and to see if there's any way that it provides the Browns any insight into who's going to be the backup on opening day when the Cleveland Browns play the Cincinnati Bengals. That is where the real drama is in the Browns quarterback battle. And I think that you're going to see all four quarterbacks on this roster come next week once teams make final cutdowns. I think the Browns are planning to keep Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Shadeur Sanders. Most teams don't keep four. I don't know if Coach Edwards has ever kept four quarterbacks on a roster. I'd be curious to hear that, but I think the Browns view quarterbacks as currency, and unless they make some kind of trade here dealing one of them away, which certainly could always happen, I would think they're poised to carry four quarterbacks next week, and these quarterbacks in the preseason finale will be vying for who gets second spot on the depth chart.
And we already know that Kenny Pickett's not playing, so it will be Shadeur Sanders, assuming, you know, after he went through the workouts yesterday, today he's fine. They expect that, so Sanders would play. Dillon Gabriel expected to play behind Joe Flacco, who will get some snaps. So plenty to pay attention to in the preseason finale tomorrow at 1. Browns radio analyst Nathan Zegura on the recently signed wide receiver Isaiah Bond out of Texas.
I know he's going to play in this one, and listen, when you can run like he can run, I think that it would make a lot of sense. I mean, he's going to make the 53, saw the contract that he got. He's a talented guy. Many people thought a second-round pick or worse, third-round pick, so day two guy. By the way, makes this draft class look even better that he was just added to it when you kind of think of now everything that's been put together to position that I like to get wide receivers. So ones that can run and ones that can make plays like this. We're seeing some jet sweeps in our offense this year. So I think Isaiah Bond, I don't know how much he'll play against the Rams, but I could certainly see a package of, 10 to 20 plays for him in week one where it's, all right, you're running vertically, and if they don't go with you, we'll throw it to you with Joe Flacco. If they do, it's going to open things up for guys on, the deep overs for Jerry Jr., David Njoku down the seam, and then maybe try to get the ball in his hands with some wide receiver screens or some jet sweeps just to give him an opportunity to make plays with his speed. But I think that he will be a part of our week one game plan.
And again, Browns needed some playmakers. Bond has speed, 4.39. The only thing that concerns me is the production wasn't there, which gives me horrible flashbacks of a third-round pick, Anthony Schwartz. So I'm hoping I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, but that is a concern. Jason Lloyd talking about the Quinshon Judkins situation. Judkins, only rookie who is unsigned, has been cleared. They're not going to pursue the legal aspect of things, but the NFL still hasn't said what's up in their mind relative to a suspension.
I don't know how you can draw any other conclusion other than this relates to Judkins, and obviously they're going to let this thing play out before he even signs. And I think the contract. I mean, listen, if he wants a fully guaranteed deal, how do you tell him no when you just brought in Isaiah Bond off the street who went through something very similar and you gave him a fully guaranteed contract? So there's the legal process of this, and there's the contract itself. And I have no idea if that's a hang-up or not. I don't know. But I know that's the thing with second-round picks and trying to get guaranteed contracts. And you gave one to Schlesinger, and you just gave one to an undrafted guy. So how do you not give one to him? So once they work through the process of NFL investigation, whatever else, if there's any sort of discipline to come down, now you also have to go through the maneuverings of the contract itself, which was a hang-up, which is the whole reason he's still unsigned, because they couldn't come to terms on it prior to all of this. So, I don't know that there's I think we all thought, I certainly thought, after the case was dismissed that we might get to a resolution on this, but I'm not so sure. Like this could drag on quite a bit longer. I have no idea. I could not even venture a guess to you as to when we'll see Quinshon Judkins in a Browns uniform and out on the field.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it does make sense that they're waiting to find out, is there a suspension, isn't there a suspension? That would change whether you give him guaranteed money. And, the agent can argue all he wants, but if you're suspended by the league, it raises some questions. All right, once again, Browns radio analyst Nathan Zagura, just with the thought about another one of those rookie playmakers I talked about earlier, Harold Fannin. What's his role going to be this year?
I think he's the ultimate chess piece for this offense, and he's somebody that the Browns absolutely wanted to come out of this draft with, and he has been sensational. You talk to any of the coaches about him, and they immediately light up. So Harold Fannin, yes, I think in many ways you can look at Harold Fannin as partly our third receiver. You can look at him as our second tight end. Yes, you can get him in the backfield. You can do a lot of things with him, but I think he's going to play a big role immediately for this team, and it gives us, Kevin Stefanski likes to obviously be in 12 personnel. So it gives us the ability to be in 12 personnel, but run a lot of your 11 personnel plays. And so what does that do? That forces the defense to put its third linebacker on the field. Or if they stay in the nickel, it gives you a big advantage in the run game. So if they put that third linebacker on the field, we all know your Sam linebacker typically is not as good in coverage as your nickel corner. I think that goes without saying. And I think if you look at the money that is spent around the league on third linebackers versus third corners, there's a huge discrepancy. So it allows for Kevin Stefanski to try to dictate the defensive personnel and then still run your 11 personnel plays out of 12 personnel because of the versatility with Fannin. So I think it gives the Browns a nice advantage. As I said, a nice chess piece. I think you'll see him lined up all over the formation, out wide, in the slot, on the wing, in line, in the backfield. I think Harold Fannin's going to be everywhere, and I think the Browns are very excited about what he brings to this offense.
And again, 11 personnel means a tight end and a running back, 3 wide receivers. 12 personnel, running back, 2 tight ends, and 2 wide receivers. Plenty more Browns talk. Let's turn our attention to the Guardians. They're fading in August. A couple of series where they could have won them, and they just didn't. Still only 3 games out of the third and final wild card spot, but now they are also a game behind the Royals, who are just 2 games out of that wild card spot. They open up a 3-game series tonight in Texas against the Rangers. Slade Ciccone trying to get things turned around and headed back in the right direction. Will face Nathan Eovaldi as the pitcher. Well, high school football, it starts tonight. Want to remind you, Friday Night Huddle, Rock Entertainment Sports Network is the place to go. Every Friday night starting tonight at 9. Join legendary head coach Chuck, Kyle, and I on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. We'll take your phone calls, have all the scores and highlights and news from across Ohio with high school football. Join us tonight for Friday Night Huddle, 9:30 to 10:30 on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Head to watchrockentertainmentsports.com. That's watchrockentertainmentsports.com for channel information as well as programming information.
You got so much to do, it's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day, 'cause it's fun all over the state. So come on, great games wait for you and me, the Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day, put a little play in your day.
Browns are up first on Sports4CLE. Let's head right to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave, love the show. Can we stop talking about the Browns having a quarterback competition? There was no competition to start. Flacco was going to be the guy. And stop saying they want to evaluate the rookies, because if they wanted to evaluate them, they would get more than a half and maybe some change of preseason, knowing that Flacco and probably Pickett's going to be the first two guys up, and knowing that you have 2 first-round picks next year and you're already said that your quarterback's in next year's draft. Basically say we wasted 2 picks on backups that guys we could have plug and played some guys possibly. Instead, we wasted it on quarterbacks who we don't want to give a fair shot to, whether it's Gabriel or whether it's Sanders. You can't evaluate these guys based on the little bit of football that they have played. And do you think without injury that the Browns are just going to throw them in the regular season if they've got something going? Just want to hear your thoughts. Go Browns. Woo, woo, woo.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Garrett Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, as well as the Barber Shop. G. Bush, a couple of things. I understand people want to see more of the rookies. I get it. The rookies were hurt. You know, the oblique kept Shadeur out. The hamstring kept Dylan Gabriel out. They were going to have to do something phenomenal. Now, they've been good. They haven't been phenomenal if they were going to win the job. And the other thing is, I would push back a little bit about they know what the development of these guys. Eventually, you have to see them in a game. I don't think they're quite there yet. Preseason's really different. You know that. They play cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, and they don't game plan.
Yeah, that's there's a marked difference between what you do in the preseason and a marked difference between what you do in the regular season. For the caller, I think one of the things and the sentiment that people are getting at is, I think a lot of people knew that it wasn't going to be a thing where all these rookies are going to come in and they're going to start from day one or whatever the case may be. I think that the Cleveland Browns did themselves a little bit of a disservice by announcing and saying that it's going to be a quarterback competition, right? When you look at it, you go by the depth chart and you say, okay, well, Flacco, I thought Flacco was going to start the whole time anyway. But when you see that Kenny Pickett is your second string quarterback and he hasn't played the entire preseason, people are going to say, well, hold on here a second. Can we see? We didn't even get to see Kenny Pickett play. He's not going to play in the last game. Dylan Gabriel played last game, but, he had some injury problems. Shadeur could have possibly played last game, but he had some injury problems. So I think one of the things that you're looking at is when you come out and say, hey, we're going to have a quarterback competition. Each one of these guys has an opportunity to start. That puts you in a position where people are going to try to hold you accountable to that. People are going to say, well, all right, well, if a real competition is, where's the reps at? Like, is everybody going to get the same amount of reps in practice? Is everybody going to get the same amount of reps in the games? And that has not been the case. I think if the Cleveland Browns would have just came out and said, listen, we got Joe Flacco. And look, even if they don't play the rookie guys, this is just what they should. If it was me, this is what I would have done. If they are not ecstatic or did not like Dylan Gabriel or Shadeur Sanders enough to play them, I would have just said, listen, man, let's go ahead, get Flacco, play Kenny Pickett second of all, take them a couple of picks, move them somewhere else, and get another journeyman backup. So now we completely clear what we're doing. Flacco's going to play. If he falters, or they can vice versa, he falters, we bring Pickett in. If he falters, maybe we get another guy who will finish the season out. We're not going to win very many games, and then we're going to have all our eggs in one basket to go and get a quarterback. But the way they went about it made the waters muddy because now people are confused about what's the path. Is it? Do you want to win games with Flacco? Are you trying to see if Kenny Pickett can be a guy? Do you want to pick next year? Do you want to be terrible this year? There's just a lot of conflicting tracks where I think fans are a little confused at what the exercise was about.
Yeah, you know what I would, in listening, here's what I think. They couldn't anoint a quarterback this year because the locker room wouldn't. They anointed Deshaun Watson, and I think, when Myles Garrett said he knew the plan, I think they told him, we're going to let guys compete and we're going to go with the best guy. Did that happen? Not exactly. But honestly, I think that, as it got along 4, 5, 6 games into the season, it was pretty clear Deshaun Watson didn't give you the best chance to win, and you kept trotting him out. You can't do that.
Yeah, and so here's my thing for people that want to see the rookies play, right? Yeah, they might not play from the beginning, but one thing that you just said is correct. Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, if they are 1 and 2, they probably have some of the shortest track records and length of rope that we've ever seen. Because, like you said, if it's 3-4 games in and the offense looks bad and the team is horrible and they can't move the football, then people are going to say, "Listen, hey, this experiment is over.
Yeah,
let's give me one of them young dudes, and if they don't give you the optimum best chance to win, the pressure will be to say, listen, guys, come on, let's just figure this out, give the rookies a chance, and they'll eventually get an opportunity to play."
The other thing I'd say about the rookies, don't minimize the fact that a third or a fifth round pick, if you develop them into a 10, 15-year backup, that's valuable, because now you're not panicking with PJ Walker or somebody. So again, just because if they don't show enough and you do pick a quarterback, say you got the first pick in the draft and I don't think it's going to happen, say Arch Manning is coming out. How do you not take that guy? How do you not take a generational quarterback?
So let me tell you this. Here's the real question, and I'll ask you the question. If you do say, for instance, this is what the conversation is going to be coming up. Can you imagine you got Shadeur Sanders and Arch Manning on the same team? Do you think in your heart of hearts, do you believe Shadeur Sanders can be a backup given his stature?
It depends. You know what? If he shows enough talent to be a starter, I don't think you should ask him to be. At that point, you got a great problem. If this guy flashes and people see him and he looks like a player, you trade him. But again, from everything I've heard from Shadeur Sanders, I'm not buying that. I don't think he thinks he's ready to play right now. I think he plays. He's a gamer. He plays really well when you put, he may not look great on Wednesday afternoon at 2 o'clock when you're practicing. Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, he looks pretty good once you put the ball in play and there's 11 guys in different jerseys going against each other.
Hey, look, you're going to have, and this is the cool thing about football, you can have all the plans you want. You can have all of the, I want this guy to play and this guy's going to play. I've seen the Cleveland Browns for years. You've seen them longer than me. How many years have we gone in saying we got a guy or we got this guy or we're going to do this, and you end up playing 6 quarterbacks that year, 5 quarterbacks that year. You end up 2 weeks, you got a different quarterback room. Like I saw it just a couple of years ago. So, look, he's saying exactly what he's supposed to say. Look, it's a blessing to be here. There's a lot of people that don't get an opportunity to even play. I got some things that I want to work on, and all I'm doing is getting better. When I get my opportunity, I will be ready, and I'll be ready to go cook. That's all you can ask for. So if he content with that, and if that's his mindset, then at the end of the day, as fans and people who support Shadeur Sanders, you're supposed to have the same energy level, right? It's a little harder because you ain't really playing, but that's the thing. All you can ask for is the opportunity. When you get it, take advantage of it and let the chips fall where they may.
I'm with you. And you know what? I don't care which of these guys plays well. I want them both to play well. We've been, Bernie Kosar's the last quarterback where you knew if you threw him out there, you knew you were going to get sustained really good play. Baker, we had one good year and then he was hurt and then it, kind of went off the rails. Let's get good quarterback play. That's how you win a division.
That's what you need. Since that's been 40, that's 89. That's crazy to me.
I was a Browns beat reporter back then, so that'll tell you how long ago that was. All right, let's move on. Quinshon Judkins remains the only unsigned rookie. Browns likely waiting to see what happens with the league relative to a suspension. Either way, before they decide. Browns radio analyst Nathan Zagura on the running back situation.
I think the Browns, you've got kind of what I would call your your explosive backs locked up, right? With Jerome Ford, with Dylan Sampson, and even Pierre Strong. We saw the burst from him on that 54-yard run last week. But you really don't have that power back that Quinshon Judkins was drafted to be. You don't have the guy that even Deontay Foreman was brought in to be, although it didn't work out as well last year, or the Kareem Hunt had been for the Browns prior to that, along with Nick Chubb, obviously, who could do it all. So I think that's the market they could be looking in. I know they like Amani Marshall a lot. I think the question is, do we like Amani Marshall enough to go into week one with him being our bigger back? And so I think that if the Browns are in the market for a running back, it would be a bigger back. And my guess is it would skew more towards a veteran than a younger player. But I don't think they're looking to necessarily, certainly not break the bank. Obviously, you want to get Quinshon Judkins in here, and that is the role that he was drafted for very early in this draft.
And again, the concerning part, we haven't heard any updates. No, nothing new.
Listen, maybe I'm just crazy. I just keep going back to it, man. It just pains me with this stuff because you could have had somebody. I see the breaking news. Browns looking at the running back market, looking for a veteran, and you had one in house. His name is Nick Chubb. You could have kept him for a minimal sum. And he could have been a dude that you didn't even have to work. You didn't have to depend on the rookies. You could have had somebody in here. You didn't have to, we haven't seen Dylan Sampson all that much. We ain't really seen Jerome Ford all that much. And I get it. Like, I understand that you want to go young and you want to go with the youth movement. And it might go into their game plan because they might want to figure, hey, we want to be terrible this year so we can have good picks next year. But it just still irks me that I'm sitting here looking at the Cleveland Browns say they need help at running back when you had an opportunity to have all the help at running back that you needed. Is Nick Chubb where he's at today better than Amani Marshall? Of course he is. Is he better than Jerome? Yes. Like it's one of those things where this shows you that when you spread yourself thin and you put all your eggs in one basket with rookies, they're rookies. See, look. This is the opposite case for the situation at quarterback. They just did it at running back. It was just different. Quarterbacks, we're going to slow play them. Running backs, there's like hit the ground running. We got Judkins, we got Sampson, we moving. They're going to play. And then all of a sudden, Judkins is not signed. He's not under contract. And now you're looking to go get some other people. I get it. That, you would never envision this with Judkins, and you can't really control those type of things. But, I've always been a person who said, I like to cover my bases. And with a person and as good and as a hard worker as Nick Chubb is and what he meant to the organization, it would have been nothing to give him a couple of dollars here or there to just be in the rotation. And I think people were just worried about the fact that Nick Chubb is so polarizingly, great, that people love this dude, that any carries given to younger guys, you were going to hear about it. So I think that which it shouldn't even be like that, but I'm just saying they're already dealing with a firestorm where, hey, if they're not playing well, people want to see Shadeur Sanders play. If they're not playing well, they won't say, well, you can get a ball to Nick Chubb 1,000 times in a game. So I think they didn't want to deal with it a little bit, but Nick Chubb will look really good in this locker room right now. I ain't going to lie.
Yeah, he would. And you know what? You laugh, we kind of laugh. We've talked about this. The worst thing when you're in a position of leadership is the failure to imagine. So the failure to imagine what has happened in the running back room is why you are right now.
It's just tough because, for me, I know this is transactional a little bit. I know it is. But come on, man. Like, I never assumed in a world where it would be like, hey, it's Nick Chubb. Like, for me, I would have to give that man another opportunity. Just see what he can do. I gotta give you a fair one. Listen, you know what? I owe you that. I owe you the ability to go out to train one time in the offseason, get back to where you were, and to leave on your own 2 feet and on your own merit. So, I mean, for them to not even meet with him and just be like, yeah, we're going to go in the draft. Yeah, The Steelers don't do that type of stuff. Ravens don't be doing that. I just want the Cleveland Browns to get to a point where there's some sort of, I don't know, some sort of a continuity, some sort of culture where that I don't know why Bernie Kosar. I just found this out. I don't even know why Bernie Kosar is not in the Ring of Fame. How is that possible? How? I didn't even know that. I said, this stuff, I'm sorry, but I'm like, come on, you got to take care of your guys. You got to take care of them, man.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll look forward to that final preseason game. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Garrett Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, as well as the Barbershop. Browns radio analyst Nathan Zagura, what he's expecting from the starters in the final preseason game tomorrow.
I definitely like, for example, I think that there are certain guys, like a Batonio and a Myles Garrett, you definitely don't need to see out there. Denzel Ward, since he's dealing with an injury, I wouldn't expect to see anybody who's dealing with anything. So Denzel, maybe Greg Newsome, said Tillman's a little banged up, so I wouldn't expect to see those guys. But I think you'll see everybody else, and I think that, I think the goal will be to just get good work. So I think it's a possibility they could play up to 25 snaps, as we've heard Kevin Stefanski say last night on the Kevin Stefanski show. That's maybe the ceiling, but I think if they go out there and execute really well on the opening drive, maybe it's just the opening drive. I don't think that they're really going to force this. Now, the Rams aren't going to play anybody, so I'm hoping that we go out there and look very efficient and march right down the field, and then we can have good vibes going into the opener.
So a couple of things, G. Bush. Obviously, Rams not playing their starters, so keep that there. But what do you want to see from the starters that play? What do you need to see to feel pretty good? I mean, I've seen the Bengals 2 preseason games, and their defense is not good. It's bad.
Yeah, the defense don't look good. I look at this game, and I want to see them. I want touchdowns, man. This is a year where, we were told that they're going to ramp it up a little bit. I want to see guys out there. Listen, I don't think this year we have enough quality grade A names that don't need to play in this game. He mentioned the ones that I wouldn't play. All right, so you got the Batonio, yeah. The Myles Garrett, sure. Denzel Ward, okay. In that way, maybe Wyatt Teller, okay, but the rest of y'all got to play. I'm sorry, rest of y'all, no. Oh, I'm gonna need to see y'all get some work, because the worst thing that we can have happen is get back. And you saw how the team looked last year. We got out to that game against the Cowboys, and it was nasty work. It was guys penalties and errant throws, and it was so nasty that it looked like, oh, this was the first preseason. And at some point in time, we got to get to a point where, Kansas City playing the people, Cincinnati, I saw Joe Burrow scrambling around, running backwards, playing hard. At some point in time, we are going to have to get to a point where we're not using the first 4 games as preseason games. So to tell me that this has been different, and to tell me that they got their work in during practice, which they've been preaching to us, we're going to get our work in at the inter-squad practices or the scrimmages with the Eagles too. And by the way, we have to get that way because the other teams have margins for error. Yep. We don't. We can't miss field goals. We can't miss assignments. We can't have motion penalties after you get a 3rd and 6 conversion. We can't have missed tackles. We can't have none of that. So I want to see the level of crispness, and I want to see guys locked in and focused, and not too many people running around laughing on the sidelines. If this is dress rehearsal, get your mind together, because that's what I want to see.
All right, so Tuesday is cut down day. There's going to be couple hundred players that are looking for work all over the NFL. What positions do you think the Browns are looking at from the back half of other rosters to try to upgrade? And a couple of those defensive linemen that they're not going to be able to keep, they're going claim. You should try to trade them because there's a bunch of them that can play in the league.
That's why Briggs got traded.
Yep.
They was like, listen, you're a nose tackle. You really don't fit into what Schwartz want to do, but we know you can play. You're a nose tackle that can play for other teams. We're going to trade you out of here. We're going to swap you out. But this is the easiest question I think you've ever asked me. This is by far the easiest question. This secondary has one of the abilities to put we could be dead in the water quickly. Because right now, we got Greg Newsome playing on the outside. Greg Newsome played on the inside for a reason. You lose Martin Emerson early in camp. Cam Mitchell has looked terrible. Cam Mitchell has looked bad. I mean, on the goal line, he's giving up inside leverage. He's busting coverages. He looks lost out there. You got your safety room. Do we know who's the real starting safety besides Delpit? We don't know. Now we got to figure out who else you got out there. You got Miles Harden, guys that are late round picks. They better have some guys ready to go into these rosters. By the way, the second list that gets a lot of noise we talking about, these linebackers. Nathaniel Watson, done for the year. So now he was a dude that you was rotating in there doing some things with. Now you're down to you got Devin Bush, you got Baker, and you got Schlesinger. Who else you got? I don't really know no other names. You lose him. So now the two positions I'm looking at is secondary, big time. Linebackers, big time. And by the way, shall I say, I'm glad they went and got, what's the name now? Because Bond was their pickup, but I would have said receivers too, because I don't think Deontay Johnson going to make this roster.
Yeah.
So, those are the big two or three.
Those are going to be interesting. And you know what? Linebackers and secondary, this line's really good. It'll make their job a little bit easier, but you still got to be able to cover 5-8 yards.
And you don't want no problem if Denzel Ward comes up with a hammy or something. We're thin. I don't like thin. I do not like it because you're one guy away from now. You'll get victimized. You're playing Burrow. And Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Who's covering T. Higgins? Who's like, what are we doing here? Like, you might have to have Denzel. I know that Jim Schwartz don't want to do it, but you might have to have him be followed around. I know they don't like to follow around, but I don't like that. You're gonna have to do something with that secondary. And by the way, look at what you got the first few weeks, man. You got Justin Jefferson, you got Jamar Chase, you got Zay Flowers, you got a lot of guys in that mix. Added Jordan Addison. So it's gonna be interesting. But secondary help is at a premium. I think they need to go look at somebody.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, man.
Appreciate you.
Garrett Bush, make sure you check him out. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1, Monday through Friday. On the weekends, check out The Barbershop. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Lance Reisland with some quarterback film analysis, video breakdown for the Browns. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
You got so much to do. It's got you feeling blue. Put a little flag in your day. 'Cause it's fun all over the state. So come on. Great games wait for you and me. The Ohio Lottery. Put a little flag in your day. Put a little flag in your day.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Film breakdown, video analysis. We're taking a look at the three quarterbacks who have played and practiced significantly, Flacco, Gabriel, and Sanders. And Lance, some things that they're working on and how to fix them. Let's start. It was to nobody's surprise. You and I talked about it quite a while. Joe Flacco named the starter, but still things that he's working on and trying to get right. Take us through what we see here.
Well, this is going to be interesting. So what you're going to get today is you're going to get a lot of misses, right? So you're going to get a miss here on a speed out. So got to really work the timing with these young guys, regardless of who it is. Then you're going to see just kind of a missed timing with Jerry Jeudy, a little bit behind him. And then he's down in the red zone. He's been a little bit slow in the red zone, but he's really working on it again. A miss. And you're going to see a lot of these. And there was a lot of things going on during practice that, obviously the Browns defense did a good job of making him move when he's a lot less accurate when he's moving. You're going to see a miss in Njoku, really nice play by Edmonds when the defense dominated there on that day 10. You're going to see just an overthrow here, just a miss. And then, obviously during this 2-minute drill, they covered very well. A lot of miscommunication on these corner routes with Finn and Njoku. Then you got a screen where he just threw it away. And as you're watching these, Flacco is a guy who has to be in rhythm. He's a guy who has to have a clean pocket. And the point of this is you can see that's a lot of times during camp that just didn't happen. You're going to see a corner right here to Shamari Thrash. It was way off. So the kind of the narrative of all these things you're going to see today with all these guys is they had lots of misses during camp, but they also did a really nice job of improving day to day. Gabriel is one exception. He struggled with his accuracy later in camp, but these are throws throughout camp, and I film everything during camp. I try to film every single rep, and with the good, you're going to get some bad. And the point is I'm trying to make to people is that all these guys, including Flacco, who has been the most consistent, they've had lots of growing pains. They've had lots of misses. They've had lots of timing issues. And that will only improve with time. But Flacco, again, you can see some of the misses from Flacco and what he seemed to need to improve on. He's got to have a clean pocket from that offensive line Saturday afternoon.
And we found out today that Flacco and the starters will play. So you would assume if it's Flacco, it's probably first, I would hope, I hope, it's the first team offensive line behind him. They were saying 20, 25 plays. What do you want to see from Flacco in that preseason game?
Well, obviously everybody talks operation. I'm way past operation with an 18-year vet. For me, you want to see what their identity is. Are they going to run the ball on first down? Are they going to run the ball on second down? But more importantly, what are they going to do in third and long? I think one of the keys this year is when the Browns get in third and long, do they protect the football? And one of my, obviously at all levels of football, but if you're relying on your defense, then you need to protect on third down, because if you get third and long, that's when all the defenses do their exotic looks, their exotic coverages. So what is their identity? And then can they stretch the field a little bit vertically? And how are they going to get Fannin involved? And how are they going to get Njoku involved? And what personnel groups are going to use? And what run scheme? So I'm looking forward to those first 25 plays, charting those first 25 plays, and that should give you a pretty good idea of at least what they think their identity is going to be.
All right, let's move on. One of the rookies, we'll start with Dillon Gabriel. And again, some of the things he struggled with, how you fix it.
Well, looking right here, so you're going to see just a number of throws where he gets pressure in his face, and he struggled with a little bit of pressure in his face. Then you're going to see a clean pocket, and he was just a little off. So you see that catch by Larvidan, but not easy for him to run after catch. And then, again, fumbled snap, kind of compounds an error with an error. Throwing an incomplete pass. Now, down here in the red zone, everything speeds up, and they're going to sprint him out, and this is just a miss. And everybody's concerned with him about his height. Those things do come into play, and you're going to see he's late there to Fannin in the red zone. And obviously, this is one you're going to see a wide open Njoku. There's one where his height kind of came into play. And then down in the red zone, you see him holding the ball a little bit too long, and then he's hiding Njoku. So again, these are all misses, consistent misses. Days 8, 9, and 10, he really struggled with his accuracy. So what you saw the other day for me wasn't a shock. He's been doing everything right except for the final result, except for the product, which is the most important thing in football. So again, you hope to see really good accuracy. Obviously, the operation as a rookie, making sure these guys can catch the balls and they can run with it after catch. You'll see him late in the window. These are all learning things that he's going to get better and better at. And, throwing out with pressure, throwing people in your face, those are all live action things that he has to see. So can he make the next step? That accuracy will be the key. He's done everything else well. He's been way up and down with his accuracy.
Yeah, and in the preseason game that he played, half of, the turnovers were obviously a concern. The interception should have never been thrown. I mean, the one thing I did like, though, is he was able to maneuver around the pocket, a muddy pocket, and find his throwing lanes. I had real questions about that, and I know he's been playing it's not like he miraculously shrunk to that size. He's been playing the size he is, but to see it translate, even though it wasn't full speed, it wasn't schemed, it wasn't game planned against, it was a good first step.
Well, I think I love the word you use, muddy, right? I always use a clouded pocket or a clouded window, but that term muddy is exactly right. So what he did really, really well, obviously, was his poise and his accuracy and what he did. Obviously, that interception is something he's got to clean up, and that's something you can't. I've heard people say, if you take those 2 plays away, well, those are 2 turnovers, and they dominated that first half, 190 plus to 30 plus. But those turnovers allowed the opponent to stay in the game, which is what you don't want. But his accuracy has been very good. And like you said, what you saw is what he's had to do throughout his career. That subtle movement within the pocket, sprinting out, throwing on the run, 3, 5, 7-step drops, moving the pocket, A-B gap. They did a really nice job of changing the launch point, and he did a nice job of finding those lanes. Obviously, the next step is protecting the football at all cost. And if he can do that, he did play pretty well. But those 2 turnovers cost him a really good grade, in my opinion. And I thought he played really well, but those 2 turnovers were huge.
All right, let's take a look at Shadeur Sanders again. He played a little more than a half in the first preseason game, and he looked good. What are some of the things he's working on? And again, we're looking at some of the things he's struggled with and how to fix them.
Well, his number one thing, he holds on to the ball too long. So you're going to see right here, constantly getting pressure. These aren't all his fault, and these aren't terrible, terrible plays, but he's got to learn to get rid of the football and not take a sack. So you see the first couple where he's just holding on to the ball a long time. It's not great pressure. It's not great protection, but he doesn't get rid of it. And then you're going to see some misses. This is just a miss with Fannin, and it's that timing. It's not all him, it's on both guys. And then you're going to see a wide open miss here to Deontay Johnson. And then down, obviously, this is when he starts getting into pressure and his live thing, and you see him sliding in the pocket without having to, and then taking a sack. You're going to see his footwork here is really good. And then he misses the throw. But for me, the footwork is really good, and that's what he's improved on. So some of the things he's got to improve on, you're going to see here, once again, he's hopping and he's late, and he almost gets intercepted. And I think the key for Shadeur Sanders is continuously work on transferring that weight and staying front to center. And you see right there, he doesn't transfer his weight very well to Flory on that out route. Now, a couple of things that will improve a ton as he gets more and more reps is he's got to learn to set his feet when there's no pressure. So don't muddy the pocket before it's muddy, I guess is a good way to look at it, right? And then the other thing he's got to do is he's got to make sure that he's fundamentally sound. He's not an arm thrower. He's not a Josh Allen where he can just use his arm and fling it, or even like Joe Flacco. He's got to be fundamentally sound, especially when the pocket's clean. So obviously that'll be his 2 things he needs to work on. Holding the ball and things that he needs to work on are things he can improve, but those are definite improvements that he needs to see moving forward here Saturday and as the season gets going.
You know, I have heard that he holds the ball and he's got to get rid of it quicker. I'm a little bit, and tell me if you buy this. I think one of the reasons he holds the ball, he has so much confidence, and his skill has told him, I can turn this play into something. He's just got to realize at this level, everybody's really athletic, just live to play another down. And that'll click in. There are a lot of guys that have to learn that at the NFL level.
Well, both those young guys are so well-spoken, such nice kids, and that I will say for sure. So everybody needs to understand that they are so well-spoken, they say all the right things. The thing about Shadeur Sanders for me is that he was the offense of Colorado, and when you have no run game and you have no pass protection and you're supremely confident in your skills with your receivers, like Travis Hunter and Horn and those guys, I think sometimes he learned a little bad habits, and one of the bad habits he learns is just buying time a little bit. And when you buy time, you backpedal a little bit. And he has such confidence where those guys are going to be again. But in the NFL, he can't do that because he doesn't have that rocket arm. He's got a good arm. He's got plenty enough arm, but he's got to be on time, and he's got to make sure that he's accurate and anticipates the windows. He can't throw the window when it's open. He's got to know when the window's coming open and throwing into it. But those are things he learned just because he had to carry that offense. And I think those are things that he will improve on. But those are some of the things that have put him where he's at and some of the things that they're working on. That's why I consistently say they're setting him up for success, though some people don't believe me when I say that. And I understand, and I appreciate the passion. But he's being set up for success, and he's only going to improve as his fundamentals improve.
Yeah, and you know what? Remember, it's a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick. They both look like they can play. So you just got to give them time to figure. it's the nuances of what you can and what you can't do in the NFL, and there's a lot. You know, think about it this way, because fans are always, well, he's won everywhere he's went. 2% of the people, if that play college football, play in the NFL. Give them time to get to that 2%.
Well, I think you got to give. For me, and we said this the other day. I think you got to give Kevin Stefanski a lot of credit in his preparation with these guys. Now, people complain about getting first-team reps, and people complain about whatever it is. And once again, for me, I love expectations. If you don't have expectations, that leads to complacency. So when fans and people want to win and they want guys to play, I love that, and I love when people have their thoughts with me on these guys. But I think Kevin Stefanski has done a good job of scaffolding these guys, going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, not going from 1 to 5. 1 to 5 gets you in trouble as a quarterback, and that's when you create bad habits. And that's when young quarterbacks lose confidence and aren't growing. So whatever we want from the young quarterbacks, they have a plan for the young quarterbacks. And the way that they both played in their starts shows me that plan is working, because they were extremely confident. They knew where they were going with the football. Their footwork, both of them, has improved from underneath center and in the gun. Very impressed with both of them. There's a world where you want both of these guys to be very good. That's only good for the organization moving forward when you have 2 first-round picks next year. So I think as a Browns fan, if you're open, you're happy both these guys are playing well. You're happy Joe Flacco is playing well. That's going to create competition. And most importantly, that's going to lead to wins, which is the ultimate goal. Not development. Wins is the ultimate goal. So I look forward to seeing these guys play moving forward.
Yeah, I'm with you. And don't care which one of them's better. I want them both to do well. If one of them can develop into a consistent winner, sign me up for whichever one it is. Lance Reisland is always great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Really good film breakdown, video analysis, plain dealer and cleveland.com as well. We're going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, John Macri from Pro Football Focus straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Nathan Zagura, Browns radio analyst, with his thoughts on what type of running back the Browns might be looking to add to the roster.
You need running backs that have good vision and that understand, in the outside zone when to put that foot in the ground and get north-south. And that's one of the things I think Jerome Ford's really improved on early in his career. Did too much dancing, too many negative plays last year. Averaged 5.2 yards a carry. He's got that home run ability. Obviously, if you're going to play in this offense, you have to be able to protect the quarterback. Hugh Staley will not put you out there if he doesn't believe that you can protect the quarterback. So that's key. But when it's more of a zone scheme, and yes, of course, we run some power, some pin pull, but when you're in that type of a scheme, it's the guys with the vision, the guys that understand their tracks and that understand when to get that foot in the ground, get north-south, or cut it back and find those lanes. So I think we've got guys that suit our scheme very well. The thing that we don't have right now is that bigger back. And I think that that's why if you're seeing reports about the Browns looking for a back, I think it's going to fit that mold, which is the guy that's going to go ahead like Kareem Hunt did, right? Wasn't always pretty, but he got you 3 yards. You needed 1 yard, he got you 3 yards. You needed 3 yards, he got you 3 yards towards the end of his career here with the Browns. That's what I think they're going to be looking for if they do bring another running back in the mix, somebody in that bigger profile, because it's just a lot to ask of Amani Marshall to come in and be that guy early coming out of App State. And so I think that would be, if they are looking for another running back, if they're looking for that bigger guy to come in and kind of be that hammer.
Let's welcome in John Macri from Pro Football Focus, co-host PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. So, John, Quinshon Judkins, there has been no news. Probably waiting for the league to come down and say, suspended, not suspended, good to go. Who are some names you think, back end of other rooms that might make sense?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they decide to trade, or if they bring in a free agent. If you are going to trade for somebody, I was kind of thinking about like Roshan Johnson in Chicago. I think could be somewhat interesting. Maybe one of the more fun options, considering that he's one of the younger players, and the Bears have seemed to have him lower on the depth chart right now. He was even playing at one point behind sixth round rookie Kyle Monangai. So I thought he could be really interesting. I guess I wasn't really thinking that they would necessarily trade for somebody. I mean, there's obviously when cut days happen, guys become available. But I was thinking about Gus Edwards, who's a free agent right now. I think in particular who could play kind of that early down, short yardage role, a different style of runner than Dylan Sampson as well. I think that could be the kind of player that they might be interested in for now, right? I also think about, Zach Moss or Zeke Elliott as free agents if the cost is reasonable. I don't think I'm necessarily giving up assets, or we'll see who becomes available on cut down day. But yeah, I think somebody like those kind of like Nathan Zagura was saying, like those bigger kind of short yardage type backs that you can use in those situations, because Dylan Sampson is a much different style than that. So I think for now, and Jerome Ford can play that role as well if they can't find anybody. But just thinking about Jerome Ford and his efficiency in recent years, it hasn't been amazing. But if you could find somebody like a Gus Edwards, I think that was kind of the first name that came to mind, at least for me.
So news around the league relative to running backs. It was rumored, and it happens. The Commanders trade Brian Robinson to the 49ers for a 6th-round draft pick. Robinson, final year of his contract. He's the main back for the Commanders. So that's for a 6th-round pick. That looks like the 49ers got a deal.
It's a great deal, right? And yeah, I guess if you are the Browns and you're looking to trade, at least the assets that you're giving up, they don't have to be high, right? Teams are not valuing these running backs at a super high value. So an interesting move for the 49ers too. I think one that probably makes sense considering Christian McCaffrey's injury history, right? And how losing him last year really hurt their season overall. I think, we've seen any running back come in and have success in Kyle Shanahan's offense. So I'd expect the same for Brian Robinson. I think he could be somebody that, if they wanted to try to keep Christian McCaffrey's workload a little more in check this year, he could be somebody that could spell him a little bit and hopefully keep him healthier, because they obviously have playoff aspirations, and we know how much that he means to that offense. So it makes sense that they'd bring in some insurance there. And yeah, now it's you look at the Washington Commanders. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is somebody that's been soaring up fantasy football draft boards recently, because there's been a lot of hype about him and the Brian Robinson trade rumors, and now that it just soars even higher here. So teams can get by even playoff teams like Washington, with these a good mix at running back, a good committee. So it does say a lot about, again, the position and finding the replaceability in the position and guys that could fill those roles. So there's definitely hope that the Browns could fill that spot too with Quinshon Judkins. Still up in the air. I think they could find a short-term option here to make it work.
All right, some other news around the league. Micah Parsons' contract negotiations with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys is getting even more personal, which is never good. Jones made some comments that were somewhat derogatory, at least perceived so, by Parsons, and Micah Parsons not happy. Take a look at his social media here. This is his Twitter page. Anything and everything mentioning the Cowboys taken out of it. And you notice Penn State 2021, that's when he graduated, and then TBD. Used to say Cowboys. What do you make it? We know when guys do this, it's a way of letting a team know of their displeasure these days. It sounds like this is going south for the Cowboys, like way south.
Yeah, we've seen, like you said, this tactic before, but I just feel like with this situation, it has gone about as poorly as you can plan for if you're the Cowboys, right? Parsons, for my money, arguably their best player, at least top 2 with CeeDee Lamb on the roster. Like you said, it's gotten really personal. It feels like reports are pretty ugly from both sides. Like, I don't know how Parsons is going to be a Cowboy long-term. I understand, they can franchise tag him and he won't necessarily be able to walk into free agency with them not getting anything in return. But I just think for both sides, they should really be looking at a trade at this point, because I don't know what Jerry's going to offer him at this point other than a deal so far ahead of the rest of the market that Parsons can't say no, which it doesn't sound like they're going to do. I mean, the trade value is going to be high for Micah Parsons. And look, it's definitely possible that they could work something out. Money solves a lot of issues, right? But they're going to have to pay him north of 40 million. We saw the Myles Garrett contract stuff this offseason. It started to get concerning, but then they worked it out, and Myles is locked in long term, right? So this just feels like a much different and I'd say much uglier situation with Dallas and Micah Parsons. So a little concerning, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, that there are a lot of Browns fans and Browns media that think that would be so difficult for them to swing the way you would have to structure it. If there's a way to do it, I'm sure Andrew Berry and the guys that are the cap gurus with the Browns would figure out a way to do it. But can you imagine, with all you have on the defensive line, all right, we're going to add Micah Parsons to the mix.
That would be a dream. Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett on both edges is as good as it gets. I don't think you can even write up a better potential pass rushing duo than that, so to make it a reality. Like, if there's any way that they can do that, I don't know how cap wise, because you're going to have both guys getting paid over 40 million. But man, that is that would be one of the more exciting things, I think, to happen for this Browns defense that in a long time, even with Myles Garrett. So yeah, I did think about that idea, and it's very exciting, to say the least.
All right, so one guy that has played really well is first-round pick Mason Graham, 5th overall pick. Kevin Stefanski talked about what he's seen from him so far throughout training camp.
Yeah, he's grown in a bunch of areas. I think physically and what his body looks like, his strength, his quickness, all those things. I think mentally, obviously, very good grasp of what we're trying to do. I think defensive tackles are going to show up more in games and live settings and those type of things, more so than out here in practice. So he's done a really nice job, and it's a matter of, this idea that these guys are finished products is just crazy. So he's a rookie. He's going to continue to get better, and through just sheer hard work and taking it day by day.
What do you think of Graham? Well, I know you liked him coming out, but by all accounts, he's kind of taken – it's a scheme. He was a read and react guy, so he's kind of waiting. He's kind of taken to the penetrating, get through and create chaos.
Yeah, I really like Graham. I think he's going to play a big role in year one as well. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's a lot to ask of any rookie coming in to play such a large role, but I think he's capable of doing it. I mean, I know we didn't see Graham in the second preseason game, right? But that first week, he was out there with the starters who played 100% of the snaps through those first 2 drives. And, it was only 13 snaps, so you can't take away a ton from that, especially for a defensive lineman. Like Kevin Stefanski says, it often takes time for these rookie defensive linemen to find their footing in the NFL. But I think one thing that really helps with that is getting plenty of reps, which I absolutely expect to see from Graham this season once we kick off week 1. And he's really interesting because he really thrived as a run defender and a pass rusher during his college career. And that's, I think, what makes his potential so exciting for me, is that he, being such a well-rounded prospect coming out, if he's able to develop into that well-rounded player at the NFL level, even if it's not year one, like, that's a big win for the Browns and their defensive line. I think he could be a really good player for a long time here. So nice to see that they're willing to rely on him early, and I think that's going to continue for the entire season.
How good do you think this Browns defense as a whole can be? With Emerson out and Ward's nursing he's a little banged up. There's some concerns in the secondary, but Schlesinger, he looks like he's the real deal. How good can this defense be?
Yeah, I think there's potential there. I'd say they're no worse than average, right? I think middle of the pack, as long as you have Myles Garrett, is really the floor. So that's good. If Schlesinger ends up being, an impact player in the middle of the defense, that's another win. If Mason Graham is a force at defensive tackle, obviously another win there. The main thing for me, like you said, it's the health of the defensive backs, right? This seems like a recurring issue every year where there's players with potential, but they just can't seem to stay healthy, and that kind of hurts their coverage ability quite a bit. Obviously, Martin Emerson, like you said, already out. Denzel Ward banged up. Greg Newsome, I feel like you would know better than I would. I can't remember if he was dealing with something as well. And,
Banged up
and
shoulder.
Grant Delpit, shoulder injury.
And he's coming back, but again, you know how that goes. These guys are, you got to put your nose in there and tackle guys that are big.
Yeah, and it's definitely a problem, right? It's something to keep an eye on, and Grant Delpit too. Like he's missed time in the past, so him not being able to stay on the field is always going to be a concern. But I think he's good enough to be a really good safety in the NFL and help anchor that defense a little bit too. And look, we'll see, how some of the newer acquisitions do as well. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, former first rounder on the edge. Can he surprise at all? Ronnie Hickman playing a bigger role this year at safety. Mohamed Diabate, I think they like at linebacker. So all these kind of unproven guys who have potential, we just haven't seen it yet. So for now, I'm treating the Browns kind of as a middle of the pack group, but I think they can be better than that. Are you guys much more optimistic than that, I guess?
Yeah, again, it's based on if the line does, and the line's been fantastic, if they create the type of chaos they have been in joint practices and that, it saves everybody. You know what I mean? Lesser time to throw means, secondary isn't as exposed.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Yeah, I mean, again, just having Myles Garrett creates such a high floor for the team, and then everybody else that's been able to contribute. I think there's definitely potential there for sure.
John Macri, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time, the insight. Thanks very much, John.
No, thanks for having me.
John Macri, make sure you check him out. Pro Football Focus is co-host of the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. We'll be talking about the Browns' final preseason game, previewing that 53-man roster decision that is due Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.